Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. If I could just ask those members of councillors, members of the executive, to introduce themselves, starting with Councillor Hobson.
Councillor Jim Hobson, Cabinet Member for Children's Social Care and Schools.
Councillor Farrell.
Councillor Joe Farrell, Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and Health.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Councillor Mark Smith, Cabinet for Business, Enterprise and Job Creation.
Thank you. Councillor Hugo.
Hello, Councillor Jane Hugo, Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Water.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, Councillor Neil Brooks, Cabinet Member for Enforcement, Public Safety, Highways and Transport.
Councillor Taylor.
Councillor Ivan Taylor, Cabinet Member for Projects and Partnerships.
Thank you. And Councillor Benson.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Kath Benson, Cabinet Member for Community Engagement, Aspiration and Community Assets.
Great. Thank you very much. There's myself, Councillors Benson, Hobson and Smith are present and as such are unable to vote on the items this evening. Everyone else is attending virtually. The usual, if you could keep yourself on mute and gesticulate in the normal pleasant manner if you wish to speak. We don't have anybody registered to speak, so if we could just go on to the agenda item 1, which is declarations of interest, please. Councillor Hobson.
Hi, I have a prejudicial interest in agenda item 6 as I'm a non-exec on Blackpool Housing Company and Blackpool Coastal Housing.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I've got a prejudicial interest in item 6 as well, as Chair of Blackpool Housing Company and Blackpool Coastal Housing.
Thank you. Councillor Hugo.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a personal interest in agenda item 2 as I was Chair of the Scrutiny Committee for this report.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
I have a potential interest in item 9 as a non-exec director of Beckle.
Thank you. And I need to declare prejudicial interest in agenda item 10 as I am chair of the Magic Club Claremont. Thank you. Just going on to a slight addition to agenda item 1, which is the exclusion of public and press from agenda item 12, that the public and press be excluded from the consideration of agenda item 12, Golden Mile tender exercise. This is on the grounds that this item contains a likely disclosure of information not for publication by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. This information contains ongoing negotiations with third parties, and the public interest will not be served by making this information public at the point once the negotiations are concluded. Parts of that information will be published. Could somebody second that for me? Thank you, Councillor Smith. So if those in the room, if we could vote on that.
Yeah, that's agreed, Chairman.
Thank you. And then on to agenda item 2, which is Blackpool Better Start Scrutiny Review. Mark, I believe that are you saying a few words? Mark Towers?
Chair, not in any detail. This has come through from the from the scrutiny committee for the executive with recommendations. There's responses there within the report from the cabinet member, and so the cabinet member I think is indicating to speak, who can add further detail.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Hobson, did you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have pleasure in presenting this scrutiny review of Better Start to the executive. I consider it to be a well-researched and well-presented report that has produced a list of 5 recommendations. I won't go through all 5. I'll assume that the executive have already read this, but I mean, They include recommendation 1 that Better Start should target funds to the 7 wards originally identified for funding, and in cases where residents of these wards are failing to access Better Start provisions, the services on offer should be reviewed to ensure they are suitable and accessible. And there are 4 other recommendations at the end of that report. So I have a pleasure to present it to the executive, and we do have the then chair of the Children's and Young Person Scrutiny Committee on the call, Councillor Hugo, who I'm sure is happy to take any questions from you. So are there any questions or any points?
That's Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I was reading through the report and I was sort of disappointed when I got to 4.23, where it said 57% of the funding had gone outside the recommended wards that was allocated for the funding in the first place. And reading down the report, it realized like Talbot Ward, which myself and Councillor Hugo represent, has had a very low uptake of this support and grant funding, with only sort of 29 children attended the Park Ranger event, compared to 606 children non-Better Start awards. I just feel that this needs to be a more targeted approach going forward. And I think better communication. I was in the report saying they're going to communicate better with ourselves and give ourselves reports. Being a ward councillor, just getting this evidence as a report is very disappointed to know that residents where I represent, which is the most deprived, one of the deprived wards in the whole country, is not being targeted adequately with the funding received. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think that there was an explanation given within in that they've been doing it in stages, haven't they? And the preliminary work, the beginnings of the Better Start work have been focused around outdoor play areas. And that's where the main expenditure and then focus had been, and then would then be moving on to Talbot. But I do take your point, Councillor Smith. Councillor Hobson, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely take your point, Councillor Smith. But I mean, I do think that the recommendations of this report will go quite a way to address those concerns. But thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and Councillor Hobson.
Anybody else for anything else? Councillor Hugo, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Chair. I think that has already been said, we've now got 5 years left of the Better Start funding, and having identified this, hopefully measures will be put in place to make sure that all the wards who it's meant to support will get a bit more attention going forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for the work that the Scrutiny Committee undertook on that. So, Councillor Hobson, you're happy to move the recommendation? I'm happy to second that, to approve the report and recommendations. So again, it's just those of us vote in the room. Okay.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you. And then we are on to agenda item 3, literacy strategy. Now, I understand that Vicky is with us, so I'll turn to Councillor Hobson.
Yeah, thank you again, Chair. Yeah, unfortunately, the Director of Children's Services, at quite short notice, can't make this tonight due to some ill health. So originally, I was going to give kind of a general overview of the strategy, and Vicky was going to take some of the more technical points. I will still give the general overview, and I do have a few sort of specific bullet points to run through, if that's agreeable with yourself, Chair. So Blackpool has historically had a poor record in relation to standards of literacy at all age levels and in all age groups. Exam results at GCSE are low comparable to other areas nationally and other similar areas in the Northwest. Adult literacy levels are also very low. Only with a collaborative effort to improve literacy levels across Blackpool in all age groups, but particularly the early years through Key Stage 1, will we see lasting change in these outcomes. The literacy strategy is an ambitious strategy that forms part of the 2020-2030 education strategy, alongside the inclusion strategy, the needs strategy, and the attendance strategy. The strategy has been developed alongside children's scrutiny over the last 12 months and has been open to a consultation of all stakeholders in Blackpool. Numerous working parties have been established to feed relevant information and perspectives into the strategy. Charities such as the Natural Literacy Trust have also been involved and have contributed. It is important that this strategy is developed and then delivered upon, because literacy is a fundamental building block of the educational improvement strategy and the timeline in Blackpool. The strategy will be monitored by the Blackpool Education Improvement Board and the Children and Families Partnership Board. Strategic delivery partners will be recruited via an open tender, and a literacy lead will be in post by the end of December 2021. The strategy will begin in September 2021 and will be reviewed annually up to 2025, then onwards until 2030. The literacy strategy has been developed with input from the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee. The draft strategy has been amended to include suggestions by the committee. The attached version was approved by the committee at its committee meeting on the 22nd of April 21. So just to go through some of the technical points in the strategy, it's been co-produced over 12 months, and that's gone through regular scrutiny meetings and been approved by scrutiny. It's also been approved by the Blackpool Education Improvement Board and the CLT and Children and Families Partnership Board. The Department for Education will have funded support for this strategy up to £100,000. There'll be a town-wide literacy lead to drive forward the strategy on the direction of the Assistant Director. It's also been through 5 consultation groups. Health, schools, council, libraries, etc. have been involved. There'll be a launch event at the Winter Gardens on the 30th of September. And it's expected that businesses will sign up to the pledge and that we will generate ongoing funding to support the strategy. The strategy is also linked to the social values initiatives to encourage people to support the development of this literacy, and it will be revised annually. So, okay, that's basically everything that I wanted to go through. So are there any points or questions? Councillor Benson.
Yeah, just thank you, Councillor Hodson. Yeah, it's just a comment really. Very much welcome this strategy. It's extremely aspirational and, as it says in the report, unashamedly ambitious, which so it should be. We do know, as you've heard, you've spoke on, literacy in our town is a major issue with our young people, but also included in the strategy is how we can improve adult literacy, which, you know, if a child takes a book home, you know, it's so important that their parents, but I think also that all members of the community reading through the strategy can be involved in this. You know, we can all be literacy champions, grandparents, parents. So thank you very much, Councillor Hobson. Very happy to support this strategy.
Thank you. So unless there are any further points or questions from the executive, are we happy to, as per point 2.1 of the report, to approve the literacy strategy attached at Appendix 3A with effect until the 30th of August 2030?
I'm happy to second that. So if we could have a show of hands then.
That's agreed.
Marvellous, thank you. So agenda item 4 is the Grange Renewables Project. Steve, did you want to say a general introduction?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is an investment in renewables projects at the Grange. It's 60% funded almost from external funding, ERDF, which has made the project viable. It's a 12-year payback, and it contributes to the CO2 tonnages saved as part of our climate change agenda. In investment-wise, £68,000 sought for prudential borrowing, modest in comparison with some further projects we have down the pipeline, but I think this was just to seek approval and a model for future spend to save initiatives in relation to climate change.
Right, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Steve, for presenting the report. I was reading through it, and it's good to see that we're sort of moving sort of a more renewable energy resource in the town, and it's good to see that it's going to be cost saving as well as COO saving across the town. So, like I say, money saved and also saving the planet at the same time. So we've got a double whammy here, you know. So I think it's an excellent report, an excellent way of spending resource as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody for anything else? Okay. So I move the approval of the resolution to approve the match funding of 68,300 to be funded by potential borrowing required to support at the Grange Park Community Building Renewables Project. Thank you. And if we could have a show of hands.
And that's agreed.
Thank you very much. And then agenda item 5, Solaris Centre Renewable Energy Project Replacement Wind Turbines Heads. Steve again.
Another renewables project of a smaller scale, on £22,000 sought for prudential borrowing, again with a 12-year payback that will create savings on electricity at Solaris.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, so can I move the resolution to approve the project and the potential borrowing of £22,380 required to fund the renewable energy project to install new wind turbine heads at the Solaris Centre?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you. And a show of hands then, please.
And that's agreed.
Thank you. Now, don't we have people having to leave before the next item? Councillor Hobson has physically left the room, and as Councillor Brooks, she wasn't on my screen as.
Yeah, Councillor Brooks has virtually left the meeting, and Councillor Hobson has physically left the meeting because of how they're sat. Okay.
Thank you. So, Anthony.
Thank you, Chair. Very, very pleased to introduce this item briefly. The delivery of more quality, affordable housing is a core priority for the Council and Blackpool. And this paper, this report, is seeking authority to proceed with the construction of 131 new council homes at Grange Park, split across 2 sites, a mixture of 2 to 6 bed family homes and also 30 sheltered units. A few things I'd mention. We've done some quite extensive consultation that overall it's been very well received in terms of this housing. And this item, like the next 2 and several previous, have a real theme around carbon reduction, energy efficiency, and delivering on our climate emergency. So I can confirm that the new housing will be built in excess of the forthcoming additional building regulations in terms of energy efficiency and carbon reduction. And indeed, as a part of this project and next to it, we've secured around £1 million of European regional development funding to install not just a number of measures within some of these new homes, but also on the estate more generally. And the report is seeking authority to apply to Homes England for the grant funding that we would expect to receive, but also to procure a contractor to deliver the scheme. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments they would wish to make? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's good to see that we're building more additional quality sort of rented accommodation in Blackpool permanent homes for people. Like the ones just years ago we've done on the former flats over the edge of Leighton, and now the ones over sort of Mearside near the Tesco's, and now this new development here. It looks like we're moving forward in Blackpool on developing quality homes for the residents of our town. Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely, Councillor Smith. So if I can move the resolution as at 1, 2, 3, 4 in the agenda. Can somebody second? Thank you. And then if we... Councillor Smith, you're going to vote?
That's carried, Chairman.
Thank you. I would just wait. Well, Councillor Hobson returns.
Yep.
Right. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So agenda item 7, tree strategy. That's Anthony again, I think, to do an introduction.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to introduce this item on behalf of John Blackledge, who's taken some well-earned leave. The tree strategy is a core part of delivering on our green and blue infrastructure plan, and probably fairly obviously is a key part of how we're going to move forward on delivering on the climate emergency. Interestingly, Blackpool only has around 4% coverage of tree canopy, as I understand this, and this ambitious strategy would increase tree planting by 10,000 over the next decade, which would take us to around 10% of canopy penetration across Blackpool. There's been significant consultation with community groups around this, and the intention is that the 6-point strategy will be delivered by the council in partnership with the community and indeed with ward councillors as we go forward. There's further detail, but I'm happy to take any questions and answer them as best I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any? Councillor Benson?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, delighted to present this and wholeheartedly agree with everything Anthony has just spoke about. Obviously, there's many benefits to increasing our tree canopy, not leastly creating a calmer, healthy environment, which I don't think anybody was arguing with, apart from other benefits. And also it goes some way to contributing to our council's climate agenda. But pleased to say that the consultation was extremely well received and the responses from residents were extremely positive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Just reading through that, saying it's 4% currently, moved up to 10% over the next 10 years. Just wonder how that's going to work in more the sort of built-up urban part of the central part of Blackpool compared to the wider spectrum of sort of the north and the south, where we might have more facility to plant more trees. You know, I was out in Stanley Park on the weekend and I saw the tree coverage there was fantastic. I just thought, how are we going to improve on that? So I know it's a strategy to go forward, but be interested how it's going to improve on the inner part of the wards. Thank you.
Does anybody want to come back? Yeah. Sorry, yes, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Smith. A key part of the strategy is that there will be quite an extensive survey undertaken of exactly where we can increase tree planting across the boroughs. That's a key part of this work, recognising that it's unlikely to be uniform. But we want to be as creative as we can, because I think we all know we'd like to see tree coverage in an appropriate way right across the town.
Okay, thank you. So, move to approve Blackpool's 10-year tree strategy with effect until 31st December 2021, which will contribute to the Council's climate change agenda. It must be 2031.
I think there's a typo there. It's 2031.
Yeah. Yeah, I've added that up. So, with that amendment, is everyone happy?
Yes, Chair.
Show of hands.
That's carried, Chairman.
Then that was 7. So, agenda item 8, Blackpool street lighting and traffic signals private finance initiative. That's Anthony. Okay, thank you.
Pleased to present this report whilst
can everybody mute, please?
Thank you, Chair. Pleased to present this report in place of John. In summary, the authority is being sought to enter into discussions and with the Community Lighting Partnership, who we have our street lighting PFI, to replace all the existing street lights with LEDs over the next 2 years. And a bit like some of the earlier items on this agenda, it's a double benefit of some modest financial saving through that, albeit much of that saving will be used to repay borrowing cost. But perhaps the most significant benefit of this is a dramatic reduction in the amount of energy usage that will be achieved by the switch to LED lighting. Quite extraordinary statistics, actually, that the amount of savings in carbon and energy usage would be equivalent just in 1 year of the switch to LEDs to 34 years of powering the illuminations. So in terms of a request for change, this would take us 8% towards the reduction of all council utility energy, which is quite extraordinary in one swoop with this transfer to LED. So authorities being sought to enter into negotiation to do that and to borrow the money as set out in the report to enable that change, with that being repaid by the savings. There will also be an additional modest saving of around £1 million over that 10-year period. But because of the lifespan of LEDs, it is likely that saving will become much more significant from around the 10 to 20-year period. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Anthony, for the report there. Currently, when we have the lights on in Blackpool, even currently now in some areas can seem quite dull and dark, even with the lights turned on. With implication of these new LED lights, will that actually improve more lighting and make things in areas a bit more brighter than currently are at the moment?
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I can't give you a definitive answer. However, what I am aware of is that as a part of this switch to LED, the central controlling apparatus of the scheme will also be replaced. And because of the additional energy efficiency of the LEDs, that would suggest to me that we'll have more control about what we can use, and we can do that in a much more energy efficiency way than we do at present. So I would say that we would have more scope to control the strength of lighting across the town and do it in a way that is making savings for us and making a dramatic contribution to the climate emergency.
Thank you, Anthony.
Okay, and Councillor Brooks?
Yeah, just on that last point, once we get this sorted out, the lights, the LEDs that are in, will be the best possible ones that are on the market for street lights at the minute. And significantly, at the end of the contract, PFI contract, will be in a far better position as an authority, because all the lights will be top of the range LEDs going forward, because the lifespan of them is about 20 years.
Right, thank you for that. That's great. So, if I can move through the resolution, item 8, 1, 2, and 3. Somebody happy to second?
I second it.
Give a show of hands then, please.
Yeah, that's carried, Chair.
Thank you. And then we've got somebody leaving now, agenda item 9.
Yep.
Okay, so agenda item 9 is levelling up fund, and I believe that's Alan to brief intro. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is just an item for your information, really, and noting. You did approve us to go ahead back in the 12th of April with a submission under Levelling Up Fund the 18th of June. That bid had to comply with all sorts of criteria, and of course get the support of the MP for Blackpool South, and indeed we got the endorsement of the MP for Blackpool North as well. And 3 bids were submitted as discussed in that earlier meeting, and these bids are all compliant. They have been tested externally to make sure that they're going to meet the Green Book analysis that these bids will go through. And the 3 bids are listed at in para 6.3 or section 6.3. As I say, the total cannot come to more than 20 million, and the number of bids could not come to more than 3. I think it's fair to say that the Blackpool South MP was a little bit disappointed with the criteria that were put forward, but we had to stick to the criteria to make sure that the bid was eligible, and that bid has gone in, and we should get a result of that in the I think the civil service term is the autumn.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No. Sorry. So if we can approve the resolution to note the round one levelling up fund bid and the process undertaken to prepare it.
I'll second, Chair.
And, okay.
Yeah, that's approved, Chair.
Thank you. So I'm leaving it at this point because I have prejudicial interest in agenda item 10, and Councillor Hobson will be in charge of the next item.
Meeting host, can you come back in? Can you go out? It's just died, so it's just restarted. So I'm meeting host. Can you admit, and just bear with me can you just ask them to bear with while this goes nuts? Or message Mark and just tell them that. My computer has just decided to completely go nuts. 2 seconds, so just bear with me. Do you want me to do work beside the No, you'll be fine. Can you just or Councillor Smith, you're in the chair, sorry, Councillor Hobson, you wouldn't mind just saying, just bear with us for 2 seconds.
Yeah, we're just experiencing some technical difficulties here at the moment. You just have to bear with us for a few moments, if that's okay.
You must let in. Just seem to go nuts.
The trouble is I can't. Yes. Very sorry about that. Seemed to have some unforeseen problems there. Just as the chairman was saying, we're just going to elect a replacement chairman. So if the members in the room can confirm that they wish to nominate Councillor Hobson as the chairman. Great. So that's confirmed. You can now take over, Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Lennox. Okay, so we're on agenda item 10, and that is the Community Renewal Fund. So before I pass you over to Councillor Smith, I believe Alan Cavill is presenting this item.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson. It's pretty much the same as the previous item, so this is just an update to what you agreed to let us do on the 12th of April. So it's for to note and to note the process undertaken. I think we were pretty pleased with this process. It was, if you remember, it required us to go out to the community of Blackpool and see if there were projects out there that could attract this funding, Community Renewal Fund, for which we would be responsible. But we would not be the only recipient, and we would effectively be the accountable body for this money, up to £3 million coming to us through government if we're successful with the bid. We did get quite a lot of responses to our request for projects to the tune of about £7.5 million, so nearly 2.5 times the value of the amount of money we could have gone for. And the projects are listed in the appendix. Beginning with investment in skills theme and so on. And we're bidding for approximately 2.8 million because that's what the value of the projects came to, that again passed muster in terms of the analysis that was done by our external and independent appraiser to make sure that we put forward the best bid possible. There are a few projects in there which are have been put forward by the council, but the majority of them are by third parties to enable various projects to take place under the headings shown in the report.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I don't know if Councillor Smith wants to come in for a few comments.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I sort of, to be honest, it's a very short timeline to produce this, to get this money, the bid in. So, and I know the officers and members of the Town Centre Bid Investment Board spent a lot of time and effort on trying to escalate and move this along quickly. So I just want to say a big thank you to everybody involved in sort of moving this application, a funding grant, quickly, so we can get the money in an application quickly enough for us to hopefully win the bid and get these projects moving forward. So that's all I need to say. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. Any other comments from the executive? I'll take that as a no. In that case, then, I am happy to move the recommendation to note the Community Renewal Fund bid and the process undertaken to prepare it. Do I have a seconder?
I second it.
Thank you. Can we vote on that?
And that's carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay. Hello again. So we are agenda item 11, losing where I am. Propose appropriation, dispose of land at Blackpool Central, and that's Alan again.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just remind the executive, if I can, of the background to this, if that's okay. The This is the Blackpool Central project. So it's a £300 million project, and we have now received a planning application for what is called the enabling phase and the outline planning application for the whole scheme. That enabling phase includes the car park and the heritage area, which is the area around the former King Edward pub. And there's a series of things going on now that the planning application has come in. I think we've also brought to this committee a request to begin a process of compulsory purchase, should that prove necessary, if we can't acquire the land by negotiation. And this is another one of those processes that that we need to put in place to ensure that there is no delay to the project commencing, and things get moving as quickly as possible, so we can get this this fantastic project underway. The appropriation of the piece of land, which is shown on the plan attached to this, is effectively a process that allows us to remove people's rights of access over that land. We already own the piece of land, but people have rights of access and easements across the land, and we need to be able to remove those in order to pursue the development that is being proposed as part of the planning process. And so this process allows us to do that. It doesn't take away those people's rights without compensation, and if applicable, that compensation would come into being as part of this process. So anybody who has their rights removed in respect of this appropriation would be appropriately compensated in due course. So it does allow us to move on this. That's the key issues here. There is one other thing I just need to say as part of this. When we'll be discussing this with the developer, they would like this to be able to be enacted a little bit earlier than the planning process would allow on its own, and therefore we've asked for some minor changes to the report, which would allow us to bring this forward and start working with the people who have the rights of access over this land, and to appropriate it, and to and negotiate with them to allow us to do the necessary works that are required, which is basically this land sits right next to where the car park would be and would be required for the purpose of the construction of the car park. So I'll perhaps just ask if there are any questions, Chair, before I go through the amendments, which will need to be read out, if you're happy with that.
Yes, does anybody have any questions? Nope. No questions there? No, that's fine then, Alan. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Okay, I just to confuse you even further, because it makes more sense apparently for me to do the amendment at 6.1 first. So at 6.1, there's a paragraph already there. 2 paragraphs need to be inserted before that. And they are as follows. The long leasehold interest in the subject land was acquired along with adjacent land on which King Edward Holiday Apartments are situated in 2010. At the point of acquisition, the intention was to demolish the building on the adjacent land and incorporate both the adjacent land and the subject land, which is the land edge balloon, into a proposed development of the site as an indoor snow-themed leisure and family entertainment complex. This proposed development did not take place. As the council no longer require the land for the purpose for which it was originally acquired, we are now proposing to appropriate the land for planning purposes. So that's the amendment to 6.1. It's just the addition of those 2 paragraphs. If I could move you now to para 1.1, the statement of the reason for the purpose of the report. There's 2 minor changes in this, which is to add an and to remove an and to. So the paragraph would now read, to seek approval to appropriate for planning purposes a parcel of land to the rear of the former King Edward Apartments within the Blackpool Central site, as shown edge blue and coloured green on the attached plan, pursuant to section 122 of the Local Government Act 1972. And, that's the extra and, conditional upon the grant of the hybrid planning permission with application number 21/0517 to enable the building of a multi-storey car park, which is the enabling phase of the Blackpool Central development, to invoke section 203 and section 204 of the Housing and Planning Act 2016. That's the amendment there. Para 2.1 should be changed to read as follows, with some deletions. To delegate authority to the Director of Communications and Regeneration to appropriate for planning purposes the subject land under Section 122 of the Local Government Act 1972 and conditional of the grant of planning permission, subsequently invoke Section 203 and Section 204 of the HPA, that's the Housing and Planning Act 2016. Para 10.2 should be amended to read, the proposed appropriation will not take place unless and until the timing of the decision to appropriate has been fully assessed. That's the end of the amendments, Chair, and I would ask that you consider whether to approve the recommendations under 2.0 as amended.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, I believe you're moving the amended recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm to move the recommendations as outlined by Alan Cavill previously, 2.1 to 2.4. Anybody second the recommendation?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Chair.
Then we can have a show of hands.
And again, that's carried. Chairman, this concludes the public bit of the meeting. So if
it does,
I invite you to pause and